If generating financial charts is something for you, then watch this video. We'll cover multi-point series in our TMS FNC chart component, and that of course includes the OHLC chart types, also candlestick charts, but the demo today is about OHLC chart, and in combination with that we will show you also how you can create trendline series and moving average series. Of course, FNC chart, it targets all the Delphi frameworks, VCL, FireMonkey, and also web. And with all these targets, you can create applications for all the operating systems, including web, so Windows, macOS, Android, iOS, Linux, and web. We have it all covered. Come with me and watch the demo I created in Delphi 13. And for which actually you have the full source code you can download from the link below this video here, and you can experiment and play with it yourself. So here we are in the Delphi 13 IDE. I created a new VCL application and I dropped a default FNC chart component on the form. I kept it default and we'll do all the settings via code so you can see step by step what is happening to achieve the result we are looking for. And the result we are looking for is visualizing stock market data. One of the more popular stock market companies to follow is of course NVIDIA, and we have here the data of the stock market for NVIDIA for the last 6 months, so going back to October 25 and going till here April 1. And we have for the stock value of NVIDIA the opening value, the high, the low of the day, and the closing value. So what are we going to do? We first will visualize the OHLC chart for this NVIDIA stock market quote, and so here is the code that performs this visualization. First of all, we have some CSV file load options, so we specify the delimiter that is used in this CSV file, and also that the first line needs to be skipped. First line in this CSV file has of course this textual data, not relevant, the actual values that we want to load in the FNC chart. Next up is the configuration of the interaction that we are after in the FNC chart, and what we want is basically some panning along the horizontal x-axis and also zooming with the mouse that we want to enable. And then we come to the point where we load the data from the CSV file, and there is a single method for that, which is the load from CSV multipoint data method. And here this constant is the file that we want to load, the load options parameter, and then we specify the indexes of the columns in the CSV file that we want for the low, high, opening and closing values. The next two parameters are, and if we visualize the parameter information here, we can see it that it is the Y value medium column that will not be used in this case, and the X values will also not be used because we will use column 1, because column 1 contains the dates of each of the values of the stock quote of the NVIDIA share on the stock market. After loading this information, the FNC chart will have generated automatically a series that has this OHLC data, but we still want to force the chart type to OHLC, as you can see here. Further, we want the x-axis labels to be vertically oriented, so we set the angle to 90 degrees, and we want auto units so that the FNC chart will automatically only display the x-axis labels without overlapping, so it will take care of itself to show clearly visible x-axis labels. We also do not do auto ranging for the x-axis, but we specify the range that we want to see along the x-axis ourselves, and we specify this with the minimum value and the maximum value we want to see along this x-axis. We set some legend text, some margins to make it display a little bit nicer, and we also enable a crosshair on the FNC chart so we can see in the x-axis and y-axis the values of the chart points where our mouse will hover over. And there is not much more to it. Let's run this sample and see what the result is of loading the CSV file and present it as an OHLC chart. So this is our OHLC chart. You can see that it has visualized from October 25 till April 26. And when I move with my mouse, I can zoom in here, and what you can also see is that when I move along the chart with my mouse, it snaps to the high point and visualizes or shows the value with this blue indicator on the y-axis, and you see the actual date in the x-axis. And there is not much more to it for visualizing stock information as an OHLC chart in our FNC chart. And that brings us to the next thing that we want to visualize, that is a trend line and also a moving average. So what do we do for that? Basically, pretty much the same. We specify the same settings for loading the CSV file, the interaction mode, so the panning and scaling that we want along the x-axis identical. And here we will load one series from the same CSV file, and we pick the fourth column of this CSV file. If we inspect what we can do with this load from CSV data, you can see first of all is specifying the file name, and then the load options, and then the one or more columns. It's an array of indexes. We take the closing value of the day, the fourth column. No X values, but X labels. We pick the X labels from the first column. And same applies here. We want these labels for the x-axis to be vertically oriented. No crosshair is needed here, but what we will do here is add a trend line and also add a moving average line in the chart. So first is a trend line. We generate or calculate the trend line for all the points that we have loaded in our series. We could limit the trend line for part of the series that we have loaded, but by specifying here for series 0, so the first series that was added, going from point 0 to the maximum number of points we want the FNC chart to generate a trend line for us. And the next thing we want to do is add a moving average line, and we do it for all points in our series, so from 0 to maximum number of points, and use a moving average window of 30 points to perform the calculation. That will add 2 additional series next to the series that contains the actual closing value of the stock from NVIDIA. It will generate 2 more series, so the trend line series and the moving average series. And so for these automatically added series, we specify that these series should be line series in red with a thick 3-point line and a blue 3-point line for the moving average. And for each of these series, we specify that we want to have visualized the entire series of available points. So going from 0 to the maximum number of points is the minimum and maximum X value. And that's it. There is not much more to it. When I run this application and now click on trend line, this is the result you see. Here you see the actual value of the NVIDIA stocks for the last 6 months. You see the red line, which is the trend line going from October 25 till today, April 26. And then you see the 30-day moving average, so you can see that with, of course, a delay of 30 days. So that is the moving average of the last 30 days of this value of the NVIDIA stocks. In the slides, I showed you how FNC Chart can be used in your VCL Windows applications, how you can also create cross-platform applications with the FireMonkey framework in Delphi or C++ Builder to target Windows, macOS, Android, iOS and Linux. And also with TMS WEB Core, you can create web applications with the FNC Chart. So the proof is in the pudding. I created also a sample with TMS WEB Core. This is the sample. Let's open the form. Here you can see the almost identical form for a TMS WEB Core application. And the code for loading or generating the OHLC chart and the trendline chart is almost identical. There's only one difference here, and that is we can obviously not directly load a CSV file from the file system. That would be quite a security breach if that would be possible in a web application without user consent. So we do it in a slightly different way, but you can see that other than the signature is the same actually, apart from the first parameter, which is a string for the actual CSV data, and the method name is load from CSV text multipoint data. And the same applies for the trend line and moving average generation, where you can see here we use the load from CSV text data method. So how do we get this CSV file in the WEB Core application? We do that with a file picker. So I dropped here the file picker on the form. And what is happening is that when I have clicked this button to pick a file from the local file system, I instruct via this get file as text method to get the information as text from the file. And when that file is asynchronously loaded, that's the nature of web applications where this kind of loading happens asynchronously. This event get file as text is triggered on the file picker, and we assign a local used created string list. You can see it here in the scope of the form. We have our string lists. If it has not been created yet, then we create a new string list and we assign the text that we get asynchronously from this file to the string list that we use, and this string list is then used, as I've shown you, in this load from CSV text data and also in the load from CSV multipoint data method call here. And let's see the result in action in our WEB Core web client application. So we'll run the whole thing from our default browser here installed on the system. That happens to be Chrome. And here we have our web application. I pick now from the local file system the CSV file, and from here we can create the OHLC chart, and we can also create the trend line. Exactly or almost exactly the same code, and you have your result running as a web client application, and that shows you, proves you the power of our FNC components. Full source code of both applications, as I said, you can download it from the link below this video. If you like the video, don't forget to like it. And if you want to be informed of upcoming videos on FNC Chart and our many other components, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thanks for your time. I hope you found it a very valuable information, demo and sample source code that you get. And if you have an interest in anything else specific to FNC Chart or to other components, let us know. Your wish is our command. We will produce or use that information for producing the next upcoming videos. Till the next time, and thank you.